So we will move on to floor amendment number 2, and this is Councilor Bassan.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to move floor amendment number 2 on page 3, line 15, remove the word main. This is simply to say that although I believe there are likely many things that need to be renovated, upgraded, and changed at the main station, there are also different substations throughout all of our city that are becoming more and more dilapidated and need some help. So I would like to have some flexibility in how this $5 million is utilized in making sure that we can repair the existing buildings and properties we do have with APD.
They started with this request for the main headquarters. It was totally ill-defined. Nothing had been designed. I don't know how much has been designed or analyzed with any of the other commands for that matter. I know they all have needs, and I can be supportive of putting something in there to kind of take care of the emergency needs of every one of the command offices. But that's what I feel like is lacking. I mean, how does APD determine their capital needs? Do they work with DMD on it, or are they just completely on their own? I have a question for administration.
Madam President.
Mr. Royale.
Madam President and councilors, first and foremost, we have the police department that would love to describe to you what conditions exist at APD Maine as we currently know them, and would love to give them an opportunity to share some of that with you. But to answer your question directly, Councilor Benton, the Department of Municipal Development did an analysis of that facility and gave us a report that talked about the need to upgrade many of these computer systems, the facility itself, the mechanical systems. It's an old facility that has a lot of wear and tear, and we have a report that I believe we shared a couple of pages with you here recently, but we have a complete report that was done for us on the entire facility. But if you would indulge the administration, I think the police chief or his staff would like to address the concerns that they have. And then I may add one more point, if you don't mind. The flexibility of taking the word main out is not as challenging of an issue. However, just the discussion that you all are having is then becomes which substation do we prioritize over the others? Look, we know we'll get an opportunity to get additional funds down the road to fix some of the substations. And we will always err on the side of making sure the substations are working appropriately with any major issues that come up, such as computer systems, roofs, etc. So there's just not enough money to do them all at one time. But if you wouldn't mind, if I would at least let the police department maybe address some of the concerns that you all have expressed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Royale. I would like to move on to either the chief or one of the officers that can address this issue.
Madam President, members of council, this is Chief Medina. We need to fix the main. There's a vast majority of our people are housed out there for a lot of reasons right now, especially with the consent decree and the detectives that are working force investigations. It's a consistent moving of resources and trying to figure out where we're going to put individuals, trying to fix up offices. We literally went to, at one point in time, and got leftover furniture from a bank that gave it to us. So we have, we should have Detective Burton on the main line. Let me see if we could get him on, and he could explain it a little bit more. But the leadership of the police department is steadfast that we have to upgrade the main and improve the facilities there as our #1 priority. James, are you there?
I'm there, sir. So again, I'm Detective James Burton. I'm the facility manager for APD. So to answer a couple of the questions, specifically the main, again, to put into Councilor Benton's remarks, we are currently working on doing some assessments for all of our facilities. However, as of right now, the one assessment that we have done has been for the main. We had walkthroughs today with Stacy Herrera, as well as administration from the department, as well as some architects to start looking through different problems that we have in the building, to start doing some assessments. We have just to name a couple of the problems, we have a 20-year-old plus HVAC system that has been long overdue for an overhaul. We've recently done some lighting improvements, but we have an entire other side of the building that still has lighting issues, heating issues. We have electrical issues. Part of our lighting project was to clean up some of that. The DTI system is out of date, as well as just physical things such as our ceiling grid is dated and antiquated, causing ceiling tiles to fall down out of the ceiling onto desks and people. We also have issues with some of our tiling that's going to have to be renovated and removed if we start doing some of these renovations. So I don't want to bore the council with tons of problems, but the main has many, many issues over years and years of just trying to band-aid different problems. But to address the councilor's issues about other substations, we are in the process of doing similar assessments to the entire department, just to ensure that we are looking at all of the individual needs of every single area.
This is not a problem that can be solved in APD by doing the main alone. In the years that I've been in council, we have worked diligently to upgrade and make the command areas that service District 8 livable. The conditions that these officers have had to serve under are deplorable. The bathrooms are awful. The roofs are falling in. There's water leaks everywhere. We do not, let's face it, guys, we do not take care of our facilities. And Mr. Rael, we understand that that doesn't mean just APD. But I believe that the issue here should be, before we allocate however many $1 million, that we should have a true, actual assessment of what's needed. Piecemeal is no way to fix properties in this condition. Should Maine be first? Maybe. But if we don't have the money to do it, it doesn't matter where it sits in line if we can't do it. This isn't something that we just do because we think we're going to have some extra money in the budget. I would support the intent of this. I do not support how it's brought forward. I think we need to do a real plan on all APD facilities to see what we really need. And it's not just you guys. Fire has been in buildings that are freaking falling down around them. We don't look at this. We always do the sexy, fun things that we can do a press conference on. That is not what we should be doing as stewards of the taxpayers' money. We need to take care of our physical facilities, and we're not doing it.
We should not be asked to put $5 million into a department that is being funded to the hilt. And I think we ought to be more methodical along the lines of what Councilor Jones is talking about, whether it's that department or some methodology at least, as opposed to just, okay, we got $5 million and we'll add some language and then we'll see what happens. So I also must say, and maybe I should ask the department or somebody, why is a sworn officer the facility management of APD? I want that sworn officer working out here on the beat in front of my house. I don't understand the rationale that a sworn officer is a facilities manager of APD.
Councilor Benton, Mr. Montoya is here. He can answer some of your questions in terms of the professional assessment of the facility that was done. And the other issue associated with the officer is a personnel issue that we can talk, you can talk with the chief about, if you wouldn't, as it relates to his role and his assignment.
Madam President, you can start with that. I'd rather hear that than what Mr. Montoya. I mean, I don't deny that Mr. Montoya and his department tried their best, but they're not in the business of cost control, in my humble opinion. That's the responsibility of the design professionals.
Madam President, Councilor Benton, this officer is part of our ops review section, and it's a section that we're currently working on. to make some changes in the amount of people that we have in sworn positions that are not, that could be covered by civilians. So it is a process that we're working on. It's going to take us time to filter out. We're also working on the individuals who manage our fleet and making some changes there because over the past probably 6 years, that individual also was a sworn person. So we're working on it. And as soon as we're able to, we're doing everything we can to get sworn people out where they can be working a sworn function.
Thank you, Chief. That's all I really needed. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Benton. So we will move on to Councilor Davis.
Let me just, I appreciate that. And Mr. Royale and maybe Mr. Montoya, you can help me. Mr. Montoya, when did your department complete a review of the APD Maine? I have gotten a black and white copy of it sent to me middle of this meeting today, but it looks like a piece of a larger report, and I'm not sure when this was done.
Madam President and Councilor Davis, the report that we are more than happy to share with you is roughly 34 pages. It was conducted in 2018, and it reflects a 5-year forecast and a forecast through 2029. So the report reflects what it would have cost to do all of the upgrades. And what I believe was provided to you was on page 10 that basically categorizes what sort of upgrades would need to be done immediately in order to bring that building up to standards. We then looked at the cost in 2018 when the report was completed, and then those costs in 2023 if in fact funding became available and we were needing to make those improvements. And the figure that you have on page 9 is the most accurate figure that we have. That includes inflation and projected costs moving out to 2023. So the number is a number that was arrived at by a company that did the assessment for us. I know Councilor Benton may be familiar with them, but Dude Solutions, Alpha Facility Solutions. So it was a company that had both engineering and architectural components to it.
Thank you, Madam President and Mr. Director Montoya. I appreciate that very much, but I think that's kind of I appreciate that because it helps to make my point. I want to be really clear. If this is a priority of the administration and of APD for 10% of the new federal dollars, but it wasn't significant enough to raise to a priority during the whole CIP process, and this is a need that's been known since 2018, the City Council got a copy of this report at 4:43 this afternoon, an hour and 43 minutes into this meeting to justify this expenditure after councilors started making this request. But I know that Councilor Senate, Councilor Benton, and I were on a meeting with the administration in March about their proposed plan for how to spend the federal dollars. And we requested meetings about what your priorities would be to give us background and to give us more information. And these amendments have been available for weeks about why we wanted to do this. And suddenly this is APD's #1 priority. It frustrates me in our process because I want us to have the best facilities for our officers to do their job. But the administration doesn't act like this matters. They act like we're just going to approve this because you asked for it and have known this as a priority for all these years. And suddenly we want to make a change and it's worth a 45-minute conversation and a lot of pushback from the administration when you weren't even willing to give us the data or information before the meeting started or a month ago. That's what frustrates me about this process. And it makes me feel like it's not a priority, that it's just a way to spend money. And that's what's frustrating. And I'm willing to say that we should not spend this money on this project because it hasn't been a priority. And it wasn't for 3 budget cycles plus this one. And quite frankly, my other point here is I am very impressed with our new chief and his leadership team. Many of them I've worked with for years and I'm impressed with. But quite frankly, I'm uninclined to reward APD with new toys and new facilities until they get their act together and can start demonstrating significantly forward progress on compliance. Because what I've also heard from this department is that we really need a state-of-the-art center for investigators and crime labs and everybody else to be in one location at one time under one roof and not have them scattered all over the city or in old facilities. And that's a competing priority and request that we've heard for years. So I'm not sure what APD's long-term vision is about using the Maine, about using their other facilities. I would support a long-term plan, but I also think it depends on what our long-term staffing plan is, because the number of persons we've had in all of these positions has changed over the years. And so for that reason, I would support at this point using that money for other more urgent priorities until we can develop a more comprehensive and cohesive strategy. Thank you, Madam President.
I truly believe that all of our areas probably have significant needs. And I'm just going to give you an example. The Northwest Area Command, which was built probably, it was before I retired, which was probably about 2008, is one of the back walls is actually cracking pretty severely. So there are definitely needs throughout the city. And I'm glad that you brought this to light, because we had this discussion, and it was a discussion that needed to be had. Downtown is a very, very old building and has had few renovations for years. I mean, and it's the main location of our police department. So
first, let me just say, this was never my intention. I would have bet you $1,000 at the beginning of this meeting we wouldn't have spent this much time talking on this amendment. But I've been working with council staff, and since we've been talking for a little while about it, I would like them to please share my same amendment with the one addition that I would like to have us vote on. I was just intending to hopefully have a little more flexibility with the understanding that maybe it would or would not have all gotten used at the main station, but I liked the idea of flexibility. So that was what started this whole amendment. But I still want to strike the word main. And then on page 3, after line 16, insert a new paragraph. Prior to the expenditure of this appropriation, the city shall conduct an outside needs assessment of all APD stations. This assessment must include an evaluation of existing facility needs as distinct from cosmetic upgrades. And I would hope that I can urge your support and use that as my close.
So we have a motion and a second on floor amendment number 2 as amended by Councilor Bassan.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. Ray.
If you don't mind, part of the interruption. As the amendment is written, we have a question for clarification. In order to do the assessment, we'd like to use a portion of the funding to help us in the assessment. If you read the amendment literally, it does not permit us to use these funds to do that work. And so wanted to see if there was a way to potentially give us some flexibility so that we can assess all of the facilities you all would like us to assess as we move forward in this project.
Mr. Rael, we are going to try to add some additional language to include the use of funding.
Madam President, if you could just give staff just a couple minutes, we'll get that language added.
Point of order to Madam President, I would be willing to go ahead and do that as well as the sponsor of this amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Councilor Bassan. Yeah, I just naturally figured you would want it to be funded. So, councilors, if you can just give our staff just a minute.
We're almost there, Madam President. Thank you.
They're miracle staff, but they're not miracle workers. So. Got it? I think we have it, councilors. So, Councilor Bassan, would you take a look at it and see if that's what you intended?
Okay, so I guess in order to get it in the record, I'll say that on page 3, after line 16, insert a new paragraph other than to complete the needs assessment required by this section. Prior to the expenditure of this appropriation, the city shall conduct an outside needs assessment of all APD stations. This assessment must include an evaluation of existing facility needs as distinct from cosmetic upgrades, and also striking the word main. Yes, I'm okay with it.
Okay, Counselor Jones, since you offered the second, I need your
You have my second.
second, thank you. Okay, we read it into the record, so we know what we're voting on. Counselors, if there being no further discussion, we will go on to the vote. Ms. Ortega.
Counselor Bassan.
Yes, thank
Counselor
you.
Benton.
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Counselor Gibson.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Counselor Harris.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor Pena.
Yes.
Counselor Sena.
Yes.
Counselor Borrego.
Yes.
9-0 on floor amendment 2.
Thank you, counselors. Our floor amendment number 2, as amended has passed on a 9-0 vote. Congratulations, Counselor Bassan. I'm sure that one word change, you figured it wouldn't take that long.